Hello everyone, my name is Kubra Aksoy. I'm working at Hasan University as a lecturer in the fields of English language teaching, and today I'm going to talk about speech functions, politeness, and cross-cultural communication. This is basically an overview of the topic. I'll start with the pragmatics and politeness theory, ethnography of speaking, interactional sociolinguistics, conversational analysis, and critical discourse analysis. This is an overview of basically discourse analysis, and I'm going to talk about the cross-cultural communication and politeness theory. Basically, these are the subheadings of the topic. And let me discourse, and discourse is generally used to refer to stretches of spoken and written language which extend beyond an utterance or a sentence. And you see an example, the first example about a topic, phone rings, Leslie talks about the number and mother says hello, second syllable is stressed and slightly lengthened, and Leslie says, oh hello, how are you? Mother says, very well, thank you. Lauren, you? Yes, thank you, that's good. Discourse analysis provides a tool for sociolinguistics to identify the norms of talk among different social and cultural groups in different conversational contexts. As you know, in many countries, there are different conversational, cultural, and socio-cultural groups. And in each culture, the culture affects the language, and the language affects the culture of its community. And in this discourse analysis, we analyze the spoken and written language between the sender of the message and the receiver of the message. Between those group of people, what are the differences between cultural groups? I mean, age, gender, cultural background, and language, such as. And here you see mother says hello, like this. These pitch intonations are the subheadings of discourse analysis here. And in example 3, you see that I can hear someone talking. It says by a teacher in a classroom or by a police officer investigating in an empty house. And in every different sentences, you can give different messages with the tonations, with the correct politeness theory. You can give different messages to the receiver. It may convey considerably more meaning depending on who said it to whom. Of course, this is an important point. I want to highlight it. And who said it to whom? This is the important point here. And another part, you see that conversational maxims and politeness. We have to have a look at the conversational maxims and politeness theory together. Politeness entails taking account of social factors. Here are the social factors are important. How well you know somebody, and the parallelism between those people and you are really important while you're giving a speech. What their social role or status in relation to yours, and the kind of social context in which you are interacting. Robin Lakoff introduced 3 rules of politeness. There are 3 different rules of politeness according to Robin Lakoff. Do not impose anything while you're giving your speech. Use models and heads. I wonder if I might just open the window a little. This is not imposing. And use models and aids. In the other part, the second part, give options. The first one is don't impose, and the other one is give options. Use interrogatives, including tag questions. Do you mind if I open the window? That would be nice to have window open a little, wouldn't it? This is a given options, and be friendly, using formal expressions, endearments, open the window, darling. This is in another part. This is the top one. Let's have a look at together here. Then impose, give options, and be friendly according to politeness rules. And the first two rules express the notion of negative politeness, while the last rule relates to the concept of positive politeness here. And sociolinguistics and politeness, when we have a look at this part, one area of this research has involved exploring how different speech acts are expressed appropriately and politely in different social and cultural contexts. For example, there's an Igbo proverb here. He disturbs the hornet's nest, gets stung by hornets. Expect negative consequences from unwise behavior. It means in Nigeria, the Igbo people use proverbs as one indirect and socially acceptable way of criticizing the behavior of others. This is the aim of using proverbs in Nigeria, according to Igbo people. In some Asian cultures, it is inappropriate to say thank you for service in a shop. This is an inappropriate way according to some social and cultural contexts, you see. Our next slide, you see, rather than focusing on the social distance or solidarity dimensions, politeness in Asian cultures tends to emphasize socio-cultural values such as sincerity, respect, and consideration, and negative politeness strategies of avoidance and mitigation are favored to express these values. You see here, it's truly quite embarrassing, but I would like to discuss a problem with you, or my son is about to go to Australia to study. Or the other part is, right now the money is insufficient. I was wondering if it would be convenient for you people to help us out here. By contrast, in other communities such as Greek, Turkish, and Moroccan Arabic, politeness typically involves positive politeness strategies and the expressions of consent, considerations, friendliness, and intimacy, rather than imposition, avoidance, and distance maintenance strategies. As a Turkish person, I can say that in Turkey in Turkish language we use positive politeness strategies, and rather than imposition, avoidance, and distance maintenance strategies. We use these expressions to give to other person our intimacy or friendliness, to show our friendliness. We use these politeness strategies. Little sister, I love you so much. Give me your earrings. I'll lick after them. Mom, I wish I was drinking a coffee now from your little hands. This is an intimacy, friendliness, and concerns. In Greek, the phrase "from your little hands" is a compliment on the high quality of a coffee that the mother makes. And in some Greek cultures and Turkish cultures are really similar to each other, and we use this also in our language, "from your little hands," or "thanks your hands." When your mother cooks a dinner for you, we say "thanks for your little hands." We use this phrase as to thank to this person. In other part, Interactional Sociolinguistic, it's an approach to analyzing discourse which pays particular attention to the clues people use to interpret conversational interaction within the ethnographic context. It pays careful attention to turn-taking behavior, hesitations, pauses, paralinguistic behavior, for example, sighs, laughter, and breaths, etc., to interpret what the speaker intended. Interactional sociolinguists bring to bear their with their knowledge of the community and its norms in interpreting what is going on in interaction. So what is the hidden intermeanings of this conversation? What sense can you make of it without some background information? Okay, from an interactional sociolinguistic perspective, familiarity with the previous discourse as well as the wider social context is clearly important to understanding what is going on here. So, in order to understand what is going on in a speech or in a conversation, in some situations, you should know the background information. Without knowing this information, you may not interpret what is the hidden meaning of this conversation. You may not understand the main topics of the conversation without knowing background information. In contextualization cues, we can have a look at analyzing any interaction from an interactional sociolinguistic perspective. The researcher looks for the contextualization cues features by which speakers signal listeners what the activity is, how the semantic context is to be understood, or how each sentence relates to what precedes or follows. And by the way, you can have a look at the examples here, and you can read here the example. And in other parts, in example 21, the use of strong stress and high volume serves as a contextualization cue indicating that the speaker found the performance surprisingly good. Falling intonation may indicate that the speaker is providing definitive information in answer to a question. Here, will you pick me up? I will, no problem. Gravy when offering it for a period while recounting, narrating, or describing experience or explaining how something works. Meanwhile, the other participant typically provides evidence that they are attending to the speaker. Some kind of feedback, maybe verbal, maybe non-verbal, head nodding or attentive gaze like this. This is a short part. It's not a big deal. Critical discourse analysis. In critical discourse analysis, it differs from the previous methods of describing discourse in that critical CDA, overtly critical, CDA is explicitly concerned with investigating how language is used to construct and maintain power relationship in society. The aim is to show up connections between language and power, and between language and ideology. Police officer behind desk in police station greets a woman who approaches the desk. Good morning, ma'am. What can I do for you? Good morning, constable. I want to see your sergeant, and it is not law, it is detective inspector. This is a critical discourse analysis exam. And CDA research has a very wide agenda and includes analysis of political speeches, medical textbooks, advertising and marketing strategies, and you may use any other form of rhetoric. Sexist and racist language are obvious targets for the critical discourse analysis, and the CD analysis often make use of aspects of other approaches such as conversation analysis and interactional sociolinguistic. And here, metalinguistic utterance comments on language itself. It deals with the language and language functions and metalinguistic parts of the language. Hegemony is not a common word. This is an example of metalinguistic utterances. And in fifth one, poetic utterances focus on aesthetic features of language. For example, poem, an air-catching motto, a rhyme, Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. This is another example of poetic utterance. Emphatic utterance express solidarity and empathy with others. Hi, how are you, Lolly? Day isn't. Hi, how are you? Lovely day, isn't it? This is a emphatic utterance, solidarity and empathy with others. This is another example, important example of our So, linguistic politeness in different cultures. As you know, in different cultures we use different elements of our language, and our cultures, according to Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, culture affects the language, and the language affects the culture itself. And in anyone who has traveled outside their own speech community is likely to have had some experience of miscommunication based on cultural differences. For example, in some cultures you can use the strong parts of or strong sounds of any kinds of linguistic elements, but in other countries or in other cultures, languages, it may be understood in different meanings. Often these relate to different assumptions deriving from different normal environments, because in each different community we have different unique normal environments. A Thai student in Britain, for example, reported not being able to understand what her hostess meant when she asked, "On which day of the week would you like to have your bath?" Coming from a very hot country with a water-oriented culture, the notion that she might have a bath only once a week was very difficult to grasp. Learning another language usually involves a great deal more than learning the literal meaning of the words. You should also understand the cultural background informations and the linguistic informations here, how to put them together and how to pronounce them. We need to know what they mean in the cultural context in which they are normally used, and that involves some understanding of the cultural and social norms of their use. There are also rules about who is eligible to contribute different elements. The gender, age, status of appropriate participants is predetermined. For instance, the value is performed by a young man, a warrior in earlier times. The karanga is the prerogative of the oldest, most respected woman on each side. The women exchange highly chanted calls of greeting and invoke the dead in a series of calls, often improvised to fit the occasion. The length of some contributions is also dependent on the occasion. As a conclusion, we have talked about what is the speech functions and cultural differences, cross-cultural linguistic elements, and politeness theory. Each approach emphasizes different aspects of the way discourse is used in a communication. Pragmatics is concerned with the analysis of meaning interaction, the development of theories of politeness, and the ethnography of speaking approach, and interactional sociolinguistic approach highlights the wider social-cultural context within which elements take place, and conversation analysis is a method of analyzing much more than conversation, but conversation is regarded as basic here. Thank you for listening, and if you have any question, you can contact via every kind of communication tool like LinkedIn, and you can visit my profile link. And this is a brief background information about me. Thank you for listening and have a good day.